While 5,000 sailors sleep in the dark belly of a warship, a tiny team of bakers is already awake in a hot little room deep below the flight deck, racing to turn out enough fresh bread to feed an entire floating city before the sun even comes up. Aboard a United States aircraft carrier, a bake shop that can be as small as 4 people turns out more than 1,000 loaves of bread a day, on top of thousands of rolls, buns, and pastries. Add every piece together, and it lands somewhere around 14,000 individual pieces of bread every single day, all baked from scratch, all on a ship in the middle of the ocean. And most of it happens while the rest of the crew is fast asleep. Because out here, 1,000 miles from the nearest bakery, fresh bread is not a luxury. It is one of the last little pieces of home these sailors have left. Here is how just a handful of bakers actually pull it off. Stay with me. Start with the number that makes no sense. A carrier carries around 5,000 people, and the bake shop feeding every one of them can be a team of just 4 sailors. They are culinary specialists, the same rating that runs the ship's galley, but the bakers are a breed apart, keeping their own strange hours in their own corner of the ship. Do the math and it borders on absurd. 4 people responsible for fresh bread, rolls, and dessert for a crowd the size of a small town, 7 days a week for months at a stretch, with no bakery down the street to bail them out if something goes wrong. There is no calling in sick down here. Some of these bakers arrived as trained pastry chefs. Others had never baked a single thing in their lives before the Navy taught them, and now they are feeding thousands. If the bakers stop, the entire ship notices at breakfast, and their day starts in the dead of night. Baking is a night job on a carrier for one simple reason. The crew wants their bread fresh and warm when they wake up, not baked the day before and gone stale. So while most of the ship is dark and silent, the bakers are down in the bake shop with the ovens roaring, grinding through long shifts in the small hours. Picture it. It is 3 in the morning. The ship is rolling gently through a black ocean. Thousands of sailors are asleep in their racks, and in one warm, glowing room buried deep inside the hull, a few exhausted people are elbow-deep in dough, pulling tray after tray of hot bread out of the ovens, so that thousands of strangers they will never meet can have a fresh roll with breakfast. It is one of the most invisible, thankless jobs on the entire ship. It is not a new tradition either. Back in World War II, carrier bakers worked these same overnight shifts, turning out hundreds of loaves before dawn while the ship steamed toward the fight. 80 years later, the hours have barely changed, and the sheer amount they have to produce is staggering. Because a crew this size eats bread by the mountain, a single carrier bake shop can turn out well over 1,000 loaves of bread in a day. On top of that come the dinner rolls and the hamburger and hot dog buns by the thousands, then the cinnamon rolls and muffins for the breakfast line, then cookies by the sheet pan, then the pies, the cobblers, and the cakes. One small crew can bake cookies by the hundreds of dozens and knock out a whole stack of cakes in a single week. Count every individual piece that leaves that shop in a day, and you land somewhere near 14,000. To feed a machine like that, the bakers burn through flour by the ton, dragging out sack after sack of it, along with mountains of sugar and yeast, all of it hauled up from the ship's storerooms deep below the waterline. And every last bit of it is made the hard way, from scratch. There are no frozen, ready-to-bake shortcuts down here. The bakers start with raw flour, yeast, sugar, and water, and build everything up by hand, following standardized Navy recipes that go back decades. The catch is the scale. A recipe written to serve 100 people has to be multiplied over and over until it can feed thousands. The dough gets worked in a mixer the size of a small child, churning 60 pounds of dough at a time, batch after batch after batch. From there it moves into warm, proofing cabinets to rise, then into rows of commercial ovens tall enough to swallow dozens of trays at once. Then every bit of it has to be shaped, timed, and pulled at just the right moment in a non-stop line that runs for hours. It is equal parts science and muscle. Get the water wrong, rush the timing, or let the dough overrise, and an entire batch meant for hundreds of hungry sailors is ruined. But the recipe is not even the hard part. The hard part is where they are standing while they do it. Because this is a bakery that never stops moving. When the carrier pushes into heavy weather, the whole ship rolls and pitches, and so does everything in the bake shop. The mixing bowls, the loaded trays, the racks of rising dough, and the bakers trying to keep all of it under control. Baking is a precise craft that wants everything to sit perfectly still, and out here, nothing sits still. On top of that, they are working with water the ship has to manufacture for itself, boiling seawater into fresh water around the clock, so not a drop can be wasted. And bread is fussy about water. Too little and the dough turns to concrete, too much and it will not hold its shape. The bakers have to hit it exactly right, every single time. With a supply the whole ship is fighting over. They are practicing a delicate old-world craft inside a steel box that is rolling on the open ocean, hundreds of miles from the nearest coastline. And somehow, morning after morning, the bread still comes out right. But bread and rolls are only half of what this little team does, because the bake shop is also where the whole ship comes to celebrate. When a sailor has a birthday at sea, far from family, the bakers are the ones who make the cake. When someone re-enlists or hits a milestone, or finally earns their trip home, there is a cake for that too. On the holidays, they turn out desserts for the entire crew, so that a Thanksgiving or a Christmas thousands of miles from home still tastes like something, and they take real pride in it. Ask a carrier baker and they will tell you they get to make something new almost every day, that there is a genuine art and science to the work, and that people start to know them by name for the things they bake. Navy history is full of legendary carrier cakes, including towering multi-layer creations so enormous they had to be moved with lift equipment. One famous shipboard cake took a week to build and weighed more than 1,000 pounds, then disappeared in a couple of hours. On a ship built to wage war, the bakers are quietly in the business of small joys. And that, in the end, is the whole point of them. There is an old truth on a warship: the food is the best part of the day, and nothing lifts a worn-out crew quite like the smell of fresh bread or warm cookies drifting down a passageway. Sailors will chase that smell clear across the ship, hoping to talk a baker out of something straight off the tray. One of the ship's bakers once laughed that the crew can go through 4,000 cookies in an hour. A fresh cookie can be the most valuable currency on the whole ship. For people locked inside a steel machine for months on end, a warm roll or a slice of birthday cake is not really about the calories at all. It is a few seconds of feeling human again, a taste of a kitchen back home. That is what those 4 bakers are truly making down there in the dark. So by the time the first sailors shuffle into the chow line at dawn and grab a warm roll without a single thought about where it came from, the bakers have already been at it for hours. The ovens are still roaring, and the next batch of dough is already rising on the racks. The sun comes up, the crew eats, and somewhere below the waterline, a handful of flour-dusted sailors wipe their hands, reach for the next sack, and start again. Because 14,000 pieces of bread from now, they get to do the whole thing over.